1019 Kink, it's Mitch, Elliott, and my guest in the virtual Kink Green Room is David Gray. David, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you are super busy with interviews. You have the new album.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
What part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in North London, down in my home studio.
Nice. Is that where you spent the majority of the lockdown?
No, but this is the only place I can do interviews without the dogs barking.
I have two big dogs at home, too. What kind of doggies do you have?
They're only small. One's a senile border terrier. She's nearly 14.
Oh,
And that's Molly. And I've got Frank, who's a Brussels Griffon, who's a mad-looking thing, like a hairy fish. Looks a bit like Noel Gallagher, actually.
what a great name for a dog, Frank.
Yeah, he's adopted. He was my wife's sister's dog. He was getting beaten up by the other dog, so he's a sensitive soul. He's writing his own songs now he's a part of the family.
I can tell you are my kind of people if you love dogs as much as I do. David, the latest album is called Skellig, and for those not up on their Irish geography, explain what Skellig is.
Yeah, the Skelligs are two rocky islands off the far southwest coast of Ireland, off the coast of Kerry. And they're about 7 or 8 miles out into the ocean. So back in medieval Europe, if you cast your minds back to 600 AD, they would have been the sort of edge of the Western world. And basically the monks decided in their wisdom, I presume they're trying to get away from the marauding hordes of idiots who were burning books and burning monks. They decided to get out there and form a monastery to kind of keep the literate world safe and to get closer to God. But if you could see this place and if you could experience the weather that comes in there on a sort of daily, hourly basis, the storm after storm, the howling gales that are just the norm, it's a preposterous place to live. It's two black rock towers that come out of they hand cut steps for about 300 meters up to a small plateau at the top where they built these little honeycomb dwellings and they had a little church. So trying to imagine what their life was like. I mean, if you spent 1 week there gulping down the elements, you'd have enough fresh air to last you for a decade. The idea of it, so it sort of sent my imagination reeling. I didn't get there myself. It's a friend of mine who told me the story of going, and it just sort of settled in there and kept it lit. And then the song was born a little while after, and that proved to be a sort of gateway song. It's got such a kind of contemplative, spacious quality that once I banked the vocals on it, I thought, actually, I need more of this stuff. It wants to spread out. There need to be more ideas along these lines. So a process began of part reaching back at older material and bringing that on board and giving it the same sort of treatment, and also leaning forward into new songs. And that process has taken well over 10 years. So it's been seasoned in oak casks, this record. And then after all that big build up, it was like 15 years prep to take a 5-day photograph. And then we all got together and did it live. And that was achievable because it's such simple music at heart. It's 6 people singing, but round no headphones, just everyone's on their own mics, very close together, singing around me, either playing the guitar or playing the piano. So they were live takes. And yeah, so that's the story of Skellig, a place that sort of lit my imagination. It stayed lit, and now this record has come out of it.
And if you're a Star Wars fan, you would recognize Skellig Island as a place where we see Luke Skywalker emerge from his hooded cloak. So if you just want to get a visual, that's what the island looks like. Very, very remote, very rugged. So let's talk about the making of the album. You said it took just 5 days. That seems crazy.
Well, that's when we got all the takes. So this is pre-pandemic. So it was. There wasn't much time to to play Scrabble, put it that way.
But there was some wine involved. I did see one interview. There was some wine.
There was a lot. They kept the booze. It was in Edwyn Collins' studio, and they just looked after us so well. We needed to go somewhere, a bit like the monks. We needed to escape the world. So Edwyn's studio is on a sort of cliff top in the north of Scotland, almost John O'Groats, so 40 miles shy of the end of Scotland. And that they just looked after us, him and his wife. We had their friends cooking for us. We had these beautiful meals in the evening. We'd all eat together with Edwin and Grace as well. And so it was a very communal existence. Phones had to be off when we went into the recording studio. So we weren't returning to domesticity and dogs and, all the chaos that normal life sort of thrusts upon you. It was a very much getting away from it. So a week doesn't sound like a long time, but it's a long time to be in a little bubble like that.
Yeah.
And we were just making music. We were giddy by the end of it. I mean, we were just so high on the whole thing.
I'm sure. Let's talk about another track from the album that we're playing here on 101.9 Kink and getting great response. Heart and Soul, just a gorgeous song. What's the message of the song?
Well, like a lot of the album, it's kind of not very obvious, really. Just pledging my allegiance to the flag of nothingness, really. Singing. I mean, what is singing? For something in nothing, a voice in the air. That's basically how the song starts, and it's just keeping that excitement about being alive, that the sparkle in your eyes, the wonderment that a child has looking at the world, that music can return to you again and again. So the story of this particular song it wasn't written sort of for the album. It happened when there was a tour in Ireland in 2013 called the Sounding Out Tour, where I basically put all these ideas to the test, and all these singers came together, and it was the first time I'd met half of them. So we had an incredible time. And the first time we got together after that was at a sound check, and the whole PA system wasn't working. We were standing on stage, and I fired up my amp, and just having everyone around singing, I just started to play that riff, and I began to write the songs. It was almost like having everyone together kind of loosened me up, and I suddenly began. I didn't have time at that moment to write it properly. I just wrote a few words down, captured a bit on my phone, and came back to England and wrote it. So yeah, it's the most straight ahead thing on the record in a way, but lyrically doesn't really spell it out. It's just like layering images, which, like a lot of this record, it just has a kind of hopefully a sort of cumulative effect.
David, you said once in an interview, you're not really much of a musician, and you probably couldn't play someone else's music. I think most of the world's going to disagree with that. Do you still stand by that statement? Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, well, I work with real musicians, and I can see the difference. I think the thing is, I'm unstoppable in terms of my determination to say something and to have the means to do that the way I want to do it. So if that's the goal, I'll push on and push on. I don't have the dexterity or the ear to just pick up other people's music and be able to play. And it's always an education trying to play someone else's stuff. So that's what I meant. It's not that I can't play music, just that I'm hell-bent on trying to say something all the time. And that's really how I've progressed as a musician, learning how to play the piano or the guitar in a way that a certain song needs some, complexity, and I have to learn how to do it and be able to sing at the same time. That pushes me on, and that's my learning curve. It's a very slow curve that I'm on.
So you were all set to embark on a world tour to celebrate the 20th anniversary of your album, White Ladder. The tour was to begin spring of 2020. Were you able to pull off any of the dates, or was the entire thing?
No. We were days, if not hours, away from beginning, but it's weird. Obviously, it was disappointing, but I'm quite a sort of natural compartmentalizer, so it's like, right, we got to deal with something else here. The thing is, I'd seen this pandemic coming, and I was a bit like the man who told you so. I
feel like I was the same way. I was just running around saying, this is terrible.
Because of the White Ladder thing, I just thought, what have the fates got in store for me now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've in various things in my life, it's just felt like I was just having shit thrown at me for the last time. I thought, what's next? And I saw that story start, and I thought, once I heard that it had left China, I thought, right, okay. And then when it got to Italy, I was ringing my people up going, what's our insurance on the tour? Because this is coming our way. It's the genie's out the bottle. And anyway, how right that was. I didn't know half of what was going to happen. And I don't think we knew whether the world was going to be stopped for 6 months, 3 months, a year. It's actually proved to be quite a complex bag. So I think even now there's no detail really on how gigs indoors are going to happen, or at least over here. So it's a sort of watch this space moment, and we've clearly got gigs held, but we're not quite sure whether they're going to happen, because it's not just a matter of whether the English dates or the Irish dates, the American dates, they all have to be able to happen for us to do the tour. We can't afford to put the tour together, stop, put it together again. So it's just, that's the interconnectedness of things. So yes, it was a bit of a blow, but I'll count my blessings. I've been going on and on about getting off the conveyor belt for a while, and I've had a chance to do that now.
What a great attitude. Do you think, looking in your crystal ball, if you are able to tour again, will the White Ladder tour happen, or will it be a Skellig tour or a combination?
No. I think that as long as we're not in some sort of Mad Max state, the Skellig tour will come after the sort of White Ladder tour. The White Ladder tour is next up. So those gigs are pending. There's hundreds of thousands of tickets sold out there, which thankfully people haven't sent back, so they're hanging on to them. It felt like it was going to be a celebrational event anyway. Yeah. But I think when it does happen, it's going to have a bit of extra spice and kick to it. So I think we won't be taking it for granted in the way that perhaps we might even have done under normal circumstances. It is going to feel extraordinary, I think, the privilege of playing music to people when it all unfolds again. So no one's quite sure when that is. There's no crystal ball. We just don't quite know. But all I know is all the dates need to be able to happen. It's not a matter of just doing a few in America and coming back and sitting here for 6 months waiting for someone else to open up. We've got to line up the ducks in order to be able to do the whole thing. So yeah, so that's the way I'm choosing to look at it. I think, I've done a lot of touring. I don't know how many gigs I've played in my life. 1,500. Wow. It's a lot. It's got to be over 1,000. And I've spent a bit too long on the road at times, and so this has been a real privilege to spend some time with my family, to be honest. And with no escape hatches open, you've got to kind of find a way to deal with that. So that's been a learning curve, and I'm lucky enough, I'm wealthy enough to have some space, a studio, other little outlets, which make all the difference. I feel for all the people who've been stuffed together in impossible situations with no garden, with no nothing, going crazy with their kids going nuts. My kids are just a little bit older now. It's that little bit easier. So we've watched lots of films together. It's been quite, for me, it's been like catching up on the 15 years, 20 years that I've missed. So.
Well, David Gray, it's a pleasure to talk to you. You're such a good guy. You've appeared in our live studio here in Portland several times. It's always hugely popular. You're very generous with your time, and we just can't thank you enough and can't wait to see you again soon.
Well, I can't wait to get over there. Like I say, it's such a privilege to be able to play music the way you want to play it. And we won't be taking the audiences, or in fact, even the band members, for granted when we do finally get a chance to do it again. I haven't even played with another musician apart from Ben, who played the piano on Heart and Soul for the solo broadcast we did here. That's the only time I've played with anyone else in 12 months. Wow. Crazy.
Well, I know your time is short. My best to Molly and Frank the dogs.
Exactly. Woof, woof.
Woof, woof. Cheers, David. Thank you. Cheers, David. Thank you.